We have our subsidiaries, Mike Michaela or SV FinTech, again, have a chat at the different tables so you can understand what our different products are. So as you know, we've gotten our remittance license, we've rolled it out in a limited way. We expect in a month or two to get approval to roll it out generally across the country. Please, if you have family abroad, ask them to send via RIA and ultimately to an SVL location. You gotta help the stock price. So again, our primary reason for being here is to reflect on 2023, the performance, and it's an opportunity to not only tell, but to show you the vibrant universe of Supreme Ventures Limited. As shareholders, it's important for you to see, feel, and experience all the brands that make up Supreme Ventures Group. From our online gaming platforms or fintech solutions, SVL is really positioning ourselves as a true technology company, and we hope you have felt that this morning. If you don't feel it yet, go and talk to them, you'll definitely feel it. And again, if you haven't done so, please visit our SVL experience at the back of the room. SVL started 2023 focused on making big moves, which would take the company closer to becoming a global player in the gaming and transaction industries. We continue to set the stage to deliver on the commitments we have made to you in the past few years. With that in mind, we took key strategic initiatives aimed at laying the foundation to drive SVL's global expansion in 2023. We officially planted our roots in Ghana, providing technical services to our latest partner on the African continent, Game Park Limited. Of course, even with our focus on spreading our wings overseas, the team did not lose sight of our core business here at home in Jamaica. In the Jamaican market, we continue to innovate and moving ahead with our plans to leverage our transaction platforms and to expand on product offerings. We're confident that the work being done in all of our markets will serve as a cornerstone for our future success. This morning, I'm pleased to share with you the results of our hard work and give you a glance into our strategic outlook and plans for the new year. After realizing record profits in 2022, Supreme Ventures had yet another year of strong results. While we may not have delivered profits as high as the previous year, in this time of economic transition, our numbers are enviable, reflecting a strong, profitable, and thriving company. A closer look at the numbers show that the company realized a gross profit of approximately 11.8 billion, representing a marginal increase over the previous year. We continue to put the majority of our earnings back into the Jamaican economy. In 2023, the group paid over approximately 10.1 billion in fees and taxes to the government of Jamaica, an amount that is 4 times more than the group profit after tax. I wish we had the deal the government had. You don't put in any investment, but every year you collect a check. And for us to give you your check, you get 4 times what we make. I mean, that's what you call win-win-win. Let me remind you of the pillars that we built our 5-year strategy on. Execution excellence, building strong relationships, and market leadership. These 3 directional strategies remain relevant and important to our continued success. For yet another year, product expansion, digital expansion, and geographic expansion cemented our position as market leaders. Of course, we know with great success comes great responsibility. And so we place emphasis on our philanthropic endeavors, further strengthening the SVL ecosystem and the relationships that have made the brand iconic. As I stated before, the team remained steadfast in focus and not only delivered another year of positive results, but laid the foundation from which the next SVL will be constructed. Our pride in the positive ongoing impact that our operations have on the running of the society at large is immense and further motivates us to grow and strengthen our business. During the first 3 quarters of 2023, our performance was on track to surpass the previous year. However, by year-end, we experienced a 20% reduction in net profit compared to 2022. Gross ticket sales declined by 3% from 109.6 billion in 22 to 105.5 billion in 2023. The small decline in gross ticket sales was driven mainly by lower sales of instants in the lottery segment. This, however, was offset by an increase in sports betting revenues. Our customers enjoyed another great year of winnings, taking home upwards of $75 billion. SVL remains one of the most valuable investments to our shareholders, our shareholders. Our shareholder value remains strong. SVL paid out healthy dividends of 91 cents in 2023, and the total dividend payout for the year was approximately $2.5 billion. Boy, what a scratch card that can buy now. As mentioned earlier, even while we have our eyes set on overseas markets, we have not lost sight of our core Jamaican gaming and lottery business. Lottery and numbers game continue to contribute to the lion's share of our overall results, even with the decline in gross ticket sales. In the meantime, we continue to see positive growth in the sports betting segment. In 2023, revenues from sports betting grew to approximately $15 billion, an increase of almost 3% year over year. A lesser known fact, but we're very proud of it, is that Supreme Ventures is the largest distributor of phone credit at the right price in Jamaica. That segment recorded revenues of approximately $12 billion, which was relatively in line with the prior year. Another example of the diversity that's in the Supreme Ventures universe. What do we mean? You can go on, clap. What do we mean by selling at the right price? So a phone card attracts tax of approximately 25%. So when you buy a $100 phone card, it's supposed to retail for $125. $100 for the face value and $25 obviously for the tax to the government. What we have found is that you have some other competitors who actually allow their retailers to charge more than $125. We at Supreme have taken the decision that we will not do that, because what that does is to deprive, especially the lower socioeconomic section of the economy, the true value of what you buy these phone cards for. And life is already tough for a majority of people in this country. To go further and take a larger margin than what is predicated in the business model, we at SVL decided and determined that we're not going to play that game. So any SVL retailer that does not sell their phone cards at the right price will no longer be a retailer of SVL. And to date, all of them, we have gotten 100% compliance. But if any day you go to a retailer and they're not selling at the right price, give me a call. With our wide gamut of gaming options, innovation remains at the core of Supreme Ventures Gaming. Throughout the year, the company introduced exciting enhancements to our existing offerings, giving players more opportunities to win. And win they did. SVL has invested over $4 billion in Caymanas Park and its related ecosystem since the acquisition of the operations in 2017. The SVREL team has done a phenomenal job in continuously improving the operations of Caymanas Park for the good of Jamaican racing. Innovative bet types like the Reggae 6 continue to create millionaires. Listen to the statistics. Last year, 68 punters became millionaires at Caymanas Park. Of course, the highlight of the year was the second renewal of the Mute Mile Invitational, which features the largest purse in the English-speaking Caribbean, and it was staged at Caymanas Park in December 2023. We have a video here. Please take a look.
The excitement, the beauty, what can I say? Mute Mile 2023 is really the event that everybody should definitely be at. It's a big day.
Absolutely. The Mute Mile Day is now the premier day in the racing calendar.
Lots of excitement, international invitees. You're looking at international racers, international horses, international announcers. We're streaming on Fox. Wow, it's a big deal. Well, this is the Mute Mile, so we had to speak with a Mute. This is Mr. Nicholas Mute.
The racing is excellent today.
Listen, the excitement right here off track is just as palpable as what's happening on track.
feeling, to look around, to feel the vibe, to watch the excitement, to watch the enjoyment, and more importantly, to understand what we've achieved as a group.
It was a great day, and there were so many achievements. It was the first time that a major US television network was streaming a race from Jamaica. I mean, what the guys at SVRL did was just amazing. Executive Chairman Solomon Sharp, Aswanda Stoddart, Chris Wills, the team, it was just off the chain. And on the side they had all of these pretty dressings. So this year is actually supposed to be much better. The theme is Wild Wild West. I mean, that's what you're going to dress in. So I invite all shareholders to come and buy a ticket. Please, no loaded weapons. But we expect this year to be much bigger than last year, especially given the fact that the sponsor was the Mute family. They have increased the purse size, and this year the purse is going to be over $250,000 US. My understanding from the guys at SVREL is that to date we have about 4 entries already, Chris. 4 horses have been imported, and once I mention horse, the biggest horse himself walks in. Please let us welcome our Executive Chairman, Mr. Solomon Sharp. And so what we have seen is that we have stimulated the palates of the horse racing aficionados. And so far we have had, as I said, 4 horses, and the indications are that we should have a bit more that will be coming in. And we expect that 2024 Mute Mile will be 10, 20 times bigger than what we have seen before. And it will just continue how we move to transform Caymanas. As a company, we're never complacent, despite our position as the undisputed market leader. Supreme Ventures is continuously looking forward and moving forward. And 2024 will see even more innovation and expansion across the group. Supreme Ventures FinTech will ramp up the rollout of additional products under our financial services brand. It's called Evolve. We're currently in the bill payment services. We provide loans and microfinance type products. As I indicated before, we got our remittance license, and we're in phase 1 of a 2-phase rollout where for our company-owned stores, we actually are receiving remittance and paying out remittances. And that project is going pretty well under the guidance of our CEO, Delroy Anderson. Our partners in Ghana have actually acquired a 10-year license to operate. And so we look forward to deepening that relationship and leveraging it for future overseas expansion. So just a bit on that, why the license is so important. Everybody that applies for a license in Ghana, you have to do a 1-year provisional. And it's to a lot of international companies, it's a huge barrier to entry because there's no guarantee that after the 1-year provisional period, you will be able to get a 10-year license. And so we're very happy that our partner was able to get that 10-year license because it can increase the pace of investment. Because if you know a little bit about accounting, now that you have a 10-year license, you can amortize expenses over a longer period of time, which allows for more investment to build that market. So we look forward to even better things from the Ghanaian market going forward. Even as we celebrate our company's success, we recognize our responsibility to give back to the people who contribute to that success. Take a look at some of the inspiring initiatives by the Supreme Ventures Foundation last year.
Supreme Ventures Foundation, giving back is at the heart of what we do. In 2023, the foundation continued its mission of creating transformational legacy projects in the areas of education, community enterprises, health and sports development, and social well-being. One key partnership for the foundation is to support healthcare at the national level with the blood bank. Overall, over 80 pints of blood were donated to the blood bank through the Supreme Ventures Foundation, saving at least 80 lives. Team Supreme also gave back through volunteerism. The foundation's outreach activities included several charity runs, Sharing the joy of reading on National Read Across Jamaica Day is always a favorite. Over the summer, the Supreme Ventures Foundation continued its tradition of empowering the nation's youth through our annual Junior Creators Robotic Camp. Over 100 eager children, including 50 campers who reside within state care facilities, were able to experience a week of immersion in robotics, coding, and Lego engineering, facilitated by Halls of Learning. To further inspire their learning in STEM, 10 students from the camp were also invited to a private power session with Virgin Galactic astronaut Christopher Huey, who is of Jamaican heritage. The team hit the road in August with another impactful initiative, partnering with DentCare Smile Mobile Clinic to provide free teeth cleaning to 100 students who reside in state care homes in St. Andrew and Clarendon. We extended our work in the children's home to the caregivers, recognizing the important role they play in the development of our nation's children. The foundation celebrated Mother's and Father's Day by treating those mothers and fathers across the island to a spa day. The SV Foundation continued its support to the cohort of university students who were awarded scholarships valued at over $100 million in our 20th anniversary. In our latest initiative to help them transition successfully after their studies are complete, the foundation is supporting each student with acquiring their driver's license. All costs related to the permit and lessons from Grinnell's Driving School will be covered by the foundation. The SVF ended the year spreading Christmas cheer and creating joyful moments for the 100 children in state care. They were treated to Dream Supreme, an amazing plane ride from Montego Bay to Kingston, showing them that dreams have no limits. The SV Foundation Supreme Heroes program welcomed its second cohort of finalists to take on new projects and compete for the title of Ultimate Hero. At the end of the year, Jamaica voted for Anisha Miller of Farmerdex Wholesale and Retail Store to further her efforts towards uplifting the Gordontown community by receiving an additional grant. At SV Foundation, we remain steadfast in our commitment to making an indelible mark on the lives of children living in state care and positively impacting lives across Jamaica every day in 2023. With its targeted initiatives, the foundation is confident of a better Jamaica where all citizens are focused on protecting and caring for the vulnerable in the society.
Thank you. You know, when we go to conferences internationally, one of the things that, keeps coming across is, they remind people that as a lottery company, you should not be ashamed for the impact that you have on your ecosystem. And you should actually do more to make people understand what the benefits that we have accrued and how we have shared that with the society at large. This is just a snippet of some of the things that we do. And if you put things into perspective, the Supreme Ventures Foundation, their funding comes from a contribution from our annual profits from the company itself. But one of our largest recipients of funding from the lottery is Chase. So I don't know how many people know what Chase mean. We'll give a scratch card for that. Put up your hand, sir. What's your name? Jermaine. What does Chase mean? Start with C. What is C? Yes. H. A. S. E. Either one, but it sounds like a gamble. Which one you going bet on? So based on our calculation, over 90% of the revenues or the funding that Chase receives comes from Supreme Ventures Group. So when you stop and think about how many people have been impacted by this business, it's immense. It's probably one of, if not the number one company that's helping people across the country. So in addition to providing 90% of the funding to Chase, we also have our own foundation and we're giving back. The figures are immense, but most importantly, when you see the smile on these kids and these people, especially the heroes, that says it all. We'll continue to focus on these strategic areas that impact our most vulnerable in our efforts to make a real, sustainable difference in the lives of the people we serve, not simply provide handouts. In short, we're teaching people to fish without giving them fish. We're very proud of how the business performed in 23. It's really been an action-packed period, and the SVL team has been more than up for the challenge. I want to recognize every member of Team Supreme for the role they continue to play in ensuring we continue to make strategic moves to stay ahead of the game. We're also gratified for our ongoing strong sales, proving that we do offer Jamaica's favorite games, as demonstrated by the retention of our market share. By strengthening our infrastructure and capacity, we've been able to realize the latent potential of our traditional core businesses lines. Sports betting continues to see exponential growth. Our digital universe has expanded with multiple products and channels, and all KPIs are showing positive growth indicators. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now at our favorite section where you'll be able to ask questions. We had already asked you earlier to share your questions via WhatsApp. I hope you have already done so. I will now respond to some of those questions. Otherwise, if you have a question or a point to make, I'd be grateful if you could make your way to the standing microphones to ask your questions. Simple protocol. Introduce yourself, ask your question. Please keep the statements and comments low. Right, Mr. Rose? As you begin, please state your name and whether you're a shareholder or a proxy. If you're a proxy, please state your name and the name of the shareholder you represent, and then go ahead with the question. Members of the media will have a special chat with the C-suite segment that allow you to ask questions directly to the respective heads of subsidiaries. We'll be facilitating 5 minutes with each of them for you to ask your questions one-on-one. The segment will take place at the end of the resolutions. For the avoidance of doubt, can the CEOs of the various subsidiaries stand, so whichever members of the media are here will know your face and know how to approach you. We have Don Mark, he's the CEO for Post to Post. We have Solomon Sharp, Executive Chairman, but he's supported by Chris Wills and Aswanda, the two geniuses that make him look pretty. Who else am I missing? We have Krista, Acting CEO for Supreme Ventures Shared Services. Jesus Johnston, CEO for Supreme Ventures Gaming. Anybody else? Okay, those are the guys here today. So, Diane, we start with the WhatsApp questions, or we start with the questions here? Okay, let's go.
Good morning.
Good
Name
morning.
is Kenneth Francis, shareholder.
Welcome.
Question is, having gotten the waiver to improve the blood stock by importation,
Go again?
having gotten the waiver to improve the blood stock by importation,
Mr. Sharp, Aswanda, Chris. can
how
you
soon
respond to
should
that?
we start seeing the effect of new horses coming in by way of 2-year-olds? Is it the next 3 years, 5 years? That's
Sure.
the first question. Second question is, some years ago, Eileen Clegant made a statement that the claiming system was damaging the fitness of the horses. So I'm not sure if that is also playing a part in the quality of the horses being raced. Because you said that you could get them fit enough because there was not enough races to put them in, and it encouraged persons to come in racing for a fast buck. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Solomon, you can go first.
So we're already seeing the benefits of the whole importation. When we went to the sale 2 years ago, we bought 5 animals. And when the other players saw that we were present, they bought another 20 animals. I don't think they had intentions of buying 10. The sale was a little bit high price, so we went with the intention of getting 10 horses, but we came back with 5. And we brought those horses in. And if you look on this weekend, Saturday, Sunday card, you'll see a lot of imported, and you'll see 2 of our horses, Fly Blue Jet and Box Box, that has positively contributed to the program.
Is that a tip? Sorry.
Yeah. We're also going up in the next few weeks. pending approval.
Mr. Sharp.
I want 25 horses, but again, pending approval. So there are more horses, and what that has done, these horses have been critical in filling critical races throughout the period. The claiming system comes in for a lot of flack, and it all depends on season. But what a lot of people don't realize is that only 35% of our races are claiming. So the claiming doesn't affect the fitness of a horse and what they can or can't do. The simple thing is that in any business you have to be dynamic and you have to react to the changes. And that's one of the biggest things that you'll find when we have these perceived fights with the horsemen, is that we are pushing the agenda to get to the international standards, and they're restricting, and they want to operate how they want to operate or how they have operated for a long time. So we've made a massive shift with the culture, and behind the scenes, they're positively reacting. So you're going to see more and more positive things happening. And we have been able to take the same platform that people criticize and create more with less. So I think once we continue on our trajectory, there's a fair level of excitement, and all the horsemen are looking to go to the sale that we're going to as well, to bring in more animals. So there's going to be more and more positive impact. One of the key things, though, is that the local producers need to produce more, because, and even by their own admission behind the scenes, they are getting a high price for the horses that they have, but they just don't have enough numbers to get what they should. So I think that in the next 2 years, you're going to see the benefits of everything. And the shifts that we have made, the cultural shifts, how we have revamped the whole Triple Crown series is going to present a lot more positives as we go along.
Thank you, Sala. What I would add is that a lot of people, might not be seeing how systematic we are in the transformation of Caymaners. And at a high level, the ultimate goal, we're going to be an end-to-end racetrack owner. So we bought 5 horses, which is a pilot, to see what the impact would be in terms of the cost, the returns, etc. And we have just gotten a study, we have just gotten a complete analysis, which the Auditor and Risk Committee will see in the next week. And from that, the pilot has been positive, and Solomon wasn't supposed to say it, but we're going to the next phase. But at a high level, the Caymanas part that we see will be a fully end-to-end integrated racetrack, meaning we not only will own horses on our balance sheet, but we intend to go all the way to getting involved into breeding, owning farms, etc., so that as the promoter, you will be able to help with the stock, the breeding stock, the amount of horses, and also to improve the quality of horses, because we want to position Caymanas track as the preeminent, if not the #1 racetrack in the Caribbean and this hemisphere. Question? Yes, Sala.
Chairman, is this when we start to let the cat out of the bag that
No, you started that already.
you can pay one price and own a horse? All right, let's not talk about it now.
No,
okay.
not that yet.
All right, not today.
So again, we're very clear on the investments that have to go into the track. As may have been seen in the media, we have to engage the government in terms of what will be required to increase the pace of that. So over the next 5 to 7 years, we can find $100 million US to really move Caymanas track, but it's contingent on our talks with the government. But we look forward to that, because there are many different exciting initiatives to not only increase the horse population, but also the ownership. So what Solomon was alluding to is fractional ownership, because that's one of the things that is big in the racing industry now, which is not yet present in Jamaica. What fractional ownership means. In fact, Solomon, correct me if I'm wrong, Mystic Dan, that won the Kentucky Derby, was a horse that was supported by fractional ownership. I think it had over 600 owners. So what will happen is that you no longer need to have big bucks to buy a horse for $5-10 million. You can create a fractional ownership syndicate where one horse can have 1,000 or 5,000 owners, and maybe one day for as small as $1,000 you could own a piece of a horse. But this is the key thing that is happening internationally, and we like to adopt best practices here. But thanks Solomon for letting that cat out of the bag. But there's significant conversations that have to happen for all of those things to come to a reality. But don't fear. All our plans are there. We know how to bring it to a reality, just like what we're doing with the Mutie Mile. We've gotten Fox Sports here for the first time. And, when we launched Mutie Mile this year, it was interesting that the executive director for Jamaica Tourist Board came and indicated that what we did in 2023 created $90 million of advertising value from outside of Jamaica. And so that started to give you an idea of how important it is. So those are the metrics that we're working on. We will not be deterred by speed bumps in the way, because at the end of the day, we take responsibility for the vision. So if there are people out there that don't see the vision, it is our responsibility to sell them on it. And we will continue to do so. No matter how many times they correlate this, we're very clear. And as Solomon said, North Star, we're following it. Question?
Morning, David, a shareholder.
Sorry? I didn't hear you.
David, a shareholder.
Sorry?
David, a shareholder.
David, shareholder? I don't know, the feedback here is bad. I'm not hearing what is
I said
saying.
David, a shareholder.
David Rose, shareholder. Okay, you're speaking as a shareholder today. Go ahead.
I'm always a shareholder.
Sorry?
I'm always a shareholder.
I said that you're speaking as a shareholder today. Your question, please.
So the questions we're asking right now are respect to the audited accounts to be correct, right?
I can hear better. There's some, I'm not hearing you. Or change the mic or something.
No, so I was saying the questions we're asking now are with respect to the audited accounts in particular, right? Or just in general?
Is your question? You can ask any question you want.
All right, sure. So I was looking back at the audited financials and I saw where there was $730 million lent to Game Park, which was during the 1-year provisional period. And
you saw there was 730 what?
Sorry, I said that I saw where in the audited on the loans and advances,
yes.
I believe that's note 42, it mentioned the $730 million lent to Game Park Limited for a 1-year period. And I note that during 2023, SBL would have raised $3.48 billion to support that plan for growth in Ghana. So, first that question is that loan to Game Park going to be amortized over a longer period of time now? That's the first question. And then the second question is with respect to the uptake of the bond last year, because I recall the initial target was $3 billion. Was the upsize amount that you raised really meant to take advantage of applicable capital available in the capital markets?
Yeah, so the answer to your last question is yes. When we did our analysis, the rate at which we were borrowing the money is at, we could make a margin on it. So there was additional capacity from the lender, so we took it. Your question about Game Park, as a startup, you have startup expenses. And in keeping with our partnership, we, along with them, have funded some of those expenses. As to whether the loan can be amortized over that period is a function of the profitability of the organization. So how the structure is, if they make all of that money in 1 year, they can pay it back down. So we put a line in place. So when we raised the bond, we indicated that proceeds of that bond would go towards assisting with rolling out with Game Park in Ghana. So it's not to say that the entire proceeds would have gone to Ghana. If you look back at the prospectus, it states that we'd also use some of it for working capital support. Yeah.
And just a follow-up query. Does SVL still stream its cashback game to South Africa?
Yes. Yes, we do. So as you know, which I indicated last year, South Africa was one of those countries that in COVID, they literally shut down their gaming industry, unlike several other jurisdictions like Jamaica. And so our partners there were significantly impacted by that shutdown. So, the initial expectations for revenues, etc., obviously fell short. But we continue to speak to them. But as I'd said before, it's no risk to us. We just beam the draw there. So where we have risk, for want of a better word, is here in Jamaica, Guyana, and Ghana.
Understood. And then just a follow-up query. I think you probably answered this last year. The SVG shareholder trust
Yes.
for the member dealers, directors, and other key members, is there a target of shares that is expected to be purchased over time, or is the trust almost done?
So let me explain it so that you can frame your question better. So the Supreme Ventures Trust is designed. So what happens? A part of our ethos, we want the best and the brightest, right? I shouldn't say this publicly because then when we cost them, I went in there. But our team is the best and the brightest, and that includes compensation. And what you've found in recent times is that senior executives no longer just want cash compensation. They want to participate in the equity or the ownership of the company, which is how it should go, right? I mean, you always like to ask a question about my compensation, right? Because the value in SVL is in the shares, not in the cash compensation. And so because of that, as we take on new executives and then also the executives' contracts are rolled, we have to make shares available to them in keeping with their compensation. So the answer to your question, there isn't a specific target short of we know each year once they hit their targets, they're going to get X amount of shares. So we expect into perpetuity would always be going into the market to buy shares because every year we have to distribute shares to our executives. And that's how we keep them aligned with what we want to do. And that's why they can give such spectacular results because they work pretty hard. And especially with us going global, people are answering phones at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and we don't expect to hear any excuses.
No, appreciated.
You're welcome.
I'll just ask two other questions before I give to Kerry and the other shareholders present. So last year you purchased a stake in Dollar Financial at
Yes.
$1.70.
Yes.
So the first question is, does SVL envision itself taking more strategic aligned equity investments in the future?
And so the answer to that question is probably yes, because at SVL we look on value creation. And so if you understand the trajectory of Supreme Ventures, the reason the dividend is so high, generates a lot of cash. But in the last 3-4 years, we have embarked on an expansion process. So Supreme was seen, for want of a better word, as a mature business. But obviously, the plan that we now have, we have significant expansion opportunity. So the good position that myself and the management team finds ourselves in is that every single business line that we have is expanding and is requiring capital, right? So when we bought shares in Dollar, because we already have 2 microfinance businesses, technically. Our fintech brand, which is Evolve, and then we have what I refer to as our terrestrial brand, which is Michaela. And so Dollar makes a third investment. And so when the opportunity came, in my opinion, Dollar is the fastest and most profitable growing microfinance company in the country. And the deal has worked out well for us so far. As you know, we bought it at $1.70. You can remind me what the current price is?
About 252.
About 252. So I mean, that's what percentage return is that?
About 40 something.
You make Kerry get it before you?
42, 43%.
There you go. So by whatever stretch of the imagination, I think so far it's been a brilliant investment. And we expect them to continue to do more. So once we have the capital and opportunities arise, we will make those investments.
And just a follow-up query. So I note that last year, Michaela got its microcredit license from the BOJ.
Yes.
With respect to Evolve, does that fall under Michaela at the moment, or is it still an internal-based product?
So it does not yet fall under Michaela, but I think I've just given it away, right? And so you can read in between the lines. So, I mean, ultimately what you have is our fintech Evolve brand started and was just servicing our retailers, our lottery retailers. But we have gone through that phase, and the opportunity is now there. Because with fintech, it's an AI bot that does the credit scoring, etc. And so we did that just between our retailers, and now we're looking to roll that out across countrywide. So if you look on how we have invested, when we did the analysis and saw that for the lottery side of the business, the younger generation, were not gravitating towards it, we bought into a sports betting brand, and then we developed our own sports betting brand, because we wanted to be sure that we're on that path. That investment has worked out brilliantly, because we grew on average, the sports betting revenues grow between 30 to 50% per annum every year since we have gone there, right? So what you have is, we are very laser focused on customers, changes, wants, etc. And so we have made those investments. We believe that because of our distribution and the size of our distribution and the feedback we're getting from customers, they want additional services. And that's why fintech becomes important. So they want to be able to do remittance on bill payments, etc. And all of that is going to be consolidated on what we call a Supreme Life platform. So we will have a platform that we're going to consolidate all of these services. So already you would see that on the gaming side, we have what we call single sign-on. So you can go to our digital website, and from that digital app, you can bet on the horses, you can bet on any other sports betting, you can buy your lottery games, etc. In fact, the Super Lotto winner last year bought their ticket on our digital platform. So that's why you'll have heard me say initially a couple of years ago that I see, or my team sees, Supreme as a transaction company with lottery bolted on. And I indicated that over time we're just going to bolt other business on. But because we have now moved the vision further, and we now have this digital platform, which is a Supreme Life digital platform, we're now saying we're morphing now into a technology company. And that's where we now have our own proprietary lottery software program, which is what we roll out in Ghana and Guyana. We have our own proprietary phone credit software, which we do here under the brand ChargeUp. And we have our own proprietary software for bill payments, etc. So we're moving the business in keeping with international trends. And at some point, you'll see a consolidation to create more efficiency, which will drive more profits. And more profits drives more
Dividends.
So just a follow up to that, to one of your points made earlier in the presentation, before I ask my next question.
So what happened? People thinking that you and I have moved to the next section where we're interviewing the CEO. So after this question, give somebody a chance.
Sure.
They can come back after.
So during your presentation, you mentioned the plan to roll out the remittance strategy across the rest of the country. What timeline is that for this year, and how has the reception been in the limited spaces so far?
So the remittance rollout is subject to the regulator. In this case, it's Bank of Jamaica. And so we are very precise and careful in how we do different things. So where we are in the process, we have 6 company-owned locations, and we distribute our remittance product through those 6 company-owned locations. There will come a point where the regulator will assess to ensure that we have the proper AML, the proper structures, compliance, etc., etc. Once we get the go-ahead there, we then will be allowed to roll out right across the country. In other words, we can then bring on third-party agents, etc. And so where we are now is the budget that we had put in place for those 6 company-owned stores, we are materially ahead of that budget, right? And once we get the approval, we already have anywhere from 100 to 200 applications that want to come into the Supreme Ventures remittance distribution. And so hopefully, I don't want to get ahead of the regulator, and I shouldn't get ahead of the regulator. So I'll answer you this way. The moment they approve us to move to the next phase, you'll be one of the first persons to know, because that article probably will come out at that point in time. And I'm expecting once we get that approval, each agent has to go through a sign-up process. And so all things being equal, from the approval to full island-wide coverage, I think would take anywhere from 6 to 9 months.
Thanks again, Gary.
Good morning, shareholders, executive chairman, distinguished guests. I'm a shareholder, Carrie Berry.
I'm very small shareholder, unfortunately. Morning, Mr. Parrott. The question that I want to ask is, I see that all your income streams have gone from one income stream to many, many income streams. And based on the last response that you just gave, I see that that's vast. Question, the hotel and tourism industry, as it exists in Jamaica, or Minister of Tourism, Mr. Edmund Bartlett, wants to increase tourist arrivals from 4 million to 8 million people, doubling the amount of rooms from 25,000 rooms to 50,000 rooms.
Yes.
What plans over the next 8 years, 5 to 8 years, what plans does Supreme Ventures have to include a tourism product similar to the Mute Mile, and have tour buses of tourists coming and spending that, how much they spend? $128 each, having some of them come and spend some of that at Caymanas, or what? Are there any plans? And thank you, sir.
Yeah. So you're right, Kerry. What has happened is that, we are creating an ecosystem within Jamaica. And, for the smarter persons here, if not all the persons here, you can literally see what the next step is. So, when David asked about Ghana, we're very disciplined. So we want to get our lottery business in Ghana going profitably. But immediately, what you have to think about is every country we go into, you probably will go into with lottery. But once you establish the lottery, there's nothing that prevents us from replicating what is happening here in Jamaica. And so when you look on the potential of SVL, right, if we're generating 20 million US in a population of 3 million via the different services, every country we go into that are multiples of our population, you can see potentially where the revenue and the profits are going to be. So what am I saying? We're in lottery now in Ghana. When you get Ghana profitable by the end of the year, right, you wouldn't be surprised if our sports betting brand turns up, or microfinance brand turns up, etc. So you literally, however you get into a country, you stabilize, and once you stabilize, you bring the rest of the products there, right? So you do the math on that. As it pertains to tourism, again, it is going to take centerpiece in some of our discussions with the government. Because depending on the person you speak to and the calculations you use, the infield of Caymanas is anywhere from 50 to 80 acres. So Solomon is shutting me up. This is a first. All right, I'll say it this way. The acronym SVREL means Supreme Ventures Entertainment and Racing Limited.
I know.
Right. So the entertainment aspect of it, we are moving deeper into that side. So an aspect of the Mute Mile, whilst it is a horse race, there's an entertainment aspect to it, and destination as well. And the reason Sala keeps talking is that there's also another strategic move that we made that some people haven't fully understood. But Supreme Ventures is a material shareholder in Main Event.
I saw that.
Main Event is a premier event production company. So what you have the different pieces that are already in place. So as it pertains to what is happening, I just saw the Jamaica Tourist Board indicated that what we did at Mute Mile generated $90 million in value. We are already having discussions, whether with Main Event and other potential people, to go deeper into entertainment. But we as a corporate entity, we have certain ethos, we have certain parameters that we have to do. And so when we put our foot in, it has to be proper, and we think it's going to be in another 2-3 years a major revenue driver for us, not just at Caymanas. We have the opportunity to really go significantly larger into entertainment, as broad as you can with entertainment.
So the final word, sir, is by SVL. Thank you.
That's your word, but I like it.
Pleasant good morning, Lancel Bloomfield, Shareholder.
It's somebody like that I like. When you talk, I must hear.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
When a punter bet or the betting public wins over $1 million at the track or on the games, can such a person get a cover letter to take to the financial institution when lodging such a check to proof of funds?
Yeah, they could, but it's not necessary, because in instances where you win over a certain amount, you have to get a transfer straight into your account. So when the funds come in, it can be shown pretty easily that you have one. And so, for example, even with our Super Lotto winners, I mean, $300, $500 million, what happens, and this is the beauty about your investment in Supreme Ventures. Every single one of these people here, to become a director, you get a Bible this big. And they dig into every single company, financial, whatever. Put it this way, the regulator wants to know what my sister, brother, whatever is doing, right? And the reason for that is, as a regulated entity, we have to have certain rules, know your customer, poker, etc. And because of that, when we make that transfer,
Page 128, note 9.
Yes.
There is a good cause fee of $2.49 billion for 2023. Can you clarify what this is all about?
That's the Chase, the contribution to Chase.
Chase. All right, accepted. Page 129, note 11, under expenses by nature. In 2022, your bank charges was $70.4 million. In 2023, this has climbed to $136.67 million. Can you say what has caused this massive jump?
A variety of factors, but what I can say to you is it's not something I'm proud about, but it's an area where, in terms of expense control and saving for 2024, we're focusing significantly more on to bring down the different bank charges. So it's a function of the amount of transactions that we do. So whether people lodge cash, certain transactions, so we can do them differently. And so when you have a company the size of Supreme Ventures, because you're doing so many transactions, if you don't have a holistic policy procedure and control, some of those charges can get out of hand. But based on the focus that we're putting on it now, my expectation is that for the current year over year, that figure should go down.
Accepted. My last question. Can shareholders get a day at the park?
No, shareholders can't get a day at the park. Shareholders can get days at the park. So anytime, I'm very serious, and thank you for that. It's an open invitation. Any shareholder, subject to capacity, of course, any shareholder and their significant other that would want to have a day at the park, you have an open invitation to the director's box. And in the director's box, we fet you for the day. We provide food, liquor, and if you treat us well, you probably can hand out a trophy in the winner's enclosure.
I really like that. Is there a particular person that shareholders has to make the contact with?
Aswanda Stoddard.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on your mode of transport, we can also arrange parking for you, secure parking, etc., for you at the track. But it is, I will tell you, we have never invited somebody to Caymanas Park that has not enjoyed themselves. We only have one request. If your horse is locked in a dead heat coming down the final furlong, please do not jump on the tables.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wesley Thomas, Mandeville shareholder.
Yes.
I've come all the way from Mandeville to be here. Basically, I'm concerned about ticket sales. For 2023, your ticket sales recorded was 10.106 billion.
Yes.
I want to know, fast forward to 2024, first quarter, what are your ticket sales like now?
So, you know, when we had the fourth quarter fall off in 2023, I did indicate, I don't know if you remember that, but it was where our punters, you know, it was just paradise. You know, we had a series of things that occur which are supposed to happen like once every 100 years, and then all of them happen in the same period. The FOPL, which is 4 nines in pick 4, was hit. To put into perspective, our sales that day was 12 million, and we paid out $163 million, right? The Super Lotto got hit 2 times in 10 days. The payout on that was over $400 million. The Lotto got hit, tested so many times, 3 times doing, how many times was it? 3 times. During that period.
Wow.
Yeah. So we try to forget it, and we try to focus on the fact that, our customers were ecstatic. During that period, we set records for the amount of cash disbursed at our company-owned stores because people won so much, right? And it was the first quarter we didn't make close to $1 billion in a quarter. You saw the numbers. I think we ended up at 300 and something million dollars. But the customers won. And one of the things we wanted to do is we had already started to see the flip back.
Okay.
And so the first quarter showed that in the first quarter things normalized and our profits for the first quarter were around $800 million. So we not only see that the price liability has gone back down, but we started to see an uptick in the sales, because certainly since we came in 2017, our revenues has been double-digit growth every single year until last year. Last year is the first time since 2017 that we didn't have year-over-year growth. And it's for a variety of different reasons in terms of contraction in certain aspects of the economy, et cetera, et cetera. But year to date, well, let me not say year to date.
No.
For the first quarter, we started to see signs of the recovery. And since I can't comment on the second quarter, what I would say to you is that I think by the end of the year, we'll get back to our normal double-digit increase in revenue.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Peart, shareholders and distinguished guests.
Your name?
Melissa Shaw, shareholder.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi. So I have a question for you. You mentioned, I think, Michaela, if I'm pronouncing it correct?
Michaela, yes.
Michaela, FinTech, and your most recent investment into Dollar,
yes.
right? My question is, with the investments into these 3 financial companies, is SVL looking to allocate the profits that are earned, right, into supporting, for example, the fractional ownership of horses? You mentioned the phone credit, technology. I'm not so savvy with the tech.
Don't worry, I'll help you where you
bill
fall
payment
short.
platforms.
Yes.
Or is it that the profits will be allocated to the shares that need to be paid out to executive members?
So I think you've kind of mixed up some stuff. And so the shares to executive members is part of their compensation.
Okay.
So instead of paying them $100, you may pay them $100 worth of shares, right? So using me for an example, which David loves to do, for the last 2 years, I've given up my cash compensation. I only get $1 in cash compensation, and I take the rest of my compensation in shares. So, because I feel that's where the value is, and it also aligns me with you, the shareholder.
Yes, definitely.
So we want to do that with our executives. We hope that they hold those shares because as the company moves, they'll be fine. And people need to remember that. We're building a company, and maybe one day an international company comes and makes an offer, and you cash out on the shares. And wherever the share is trading now, in our opinion, is materially below the true value of SVL. In terms of our different investments, over the last 2 to 3 years, we have invested a lot in diversifying our revenue, our portfolio. But like with any diversification efforts, you have startup losses, you have losses that you carry. And we're coming very close to a point where a lot of those investments are going to start throwing off a lot of cash. And I think 2025 will be a very interesting year. So you speak about some of the investments. I mean, one of our better investments is our investment in Kio. Kio is an international fintech company, and we expect 2025 to be pretty good for that company as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you have some liquidity events in 2025. So once those things happen, as an investor, you know this challenge, right? When you have cash, you try to find an investment to invest. When you get the investment, you sell it and you get back cash and then you start again. And that's what we're doing at SVL.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Pleasant morning to everyone. Pleasant morning, Chairman.
Morning, sir.
Patrick Clark, shareholder.
Yeah, Patrick.
Yes, just an observation. I'm wondering, what's our policy, SVL, on the tinting of glasses from which the outlets, Supreme Ventures operators sell? I don't know. Do we have a policy like? And I'm thinking.
What's your concern?
The glass are fully tint now, so when we go to the outlet to buy, you're not seeing who's behind there. I don't know if we need to, but I'm just thinking of a security concern. You don't know. Well, I mean, over a certain amount, you will go to certain, prime location. But I'm wondering, I know we don't want persons probably to see the amount of money that the cashier is handling behind the scene, but I'm wondering if it should not be even thought of that it cut to a certain height where we, the customer as well, can see who is doing the transaction behind the scene. And I suspect a lot of, sometimes you are there at the window waiting for too long and you can't see what is happening. And I know a lot of probably time wasting is taking a place behind the counter as well. And some people phone in, so cashier are trying to attend to it, which is our company, so we have to facilitate as much purchases that people are making. But I'm just thinking if there's a policy on that, any thought?
I'm not aware of any formal policy as it pertains to the tinting. I assume it's for security reasons for the retailer, because the same way you're not sure where they are, if somebody tries to do something, they themselves don't know if they're there. We haven't received many of similar complaints, but it's something that we can look into. But I believe it's done by the retailer for their security purposes.
Okay, as I say, well, I guess we need to have an input in it. I'm just thinking, but I don't know if it can be cut short to
But curiously, why do you want to see the?
As I say, I don't know why shouldn't we not need it. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, you just want to make sure you get the right numbers, right?
Well, I mean, why should we not see who is doing the transaction where we are,
So you want to know if she's a pretty girl or not a pretty girl?
Possibly, and I'm saying, someone can. I'm just saying, sometimes you see something, so you have to see it from, you have to be futuristic, because for the same security concern, I would think that they're having, and it is not our policy neither. Right. So you understand, we were having people come in, getting a license and doing this thing. Yes, we understand you, but I'm saying, can you not, and it's very thin, can you not cut it short?
So Patrick, I hear the concern. I'll have the team look into it.
All right, noted.
Go from there. And thank you for the question.
Noted.
Hi, good morning. Morning, everyone. Nicola Borley, shareholder. As you make strides in the global sphere of things, Ghana, I believe, being the first, and last year, I believe there was a lot of fanfare, if I can call it that, or maybe I just heard more of the news at the time, that you were rolling out Ghana. Can you just give us a little more information on what's happening? I believe you said you expected it to be profitable by the end of this year in one of your comments to a question, but can we get a little more, as this is stepping out of Jamaica, so to speak?
So Ghana wasn't our first foray outside of Jamaica. Guyana was. And South Africa, in a smaller way, was the second one. In making a decision on Ghana, there were two key points. I mean, obviously the first one was, how do we mitigate the risk that, our partner, after a year in a provisional license, they're told, sorry, you can't get a tenure, right? And so that was the first risk factor. And then obviously the second one was to roll out the business. And so to date, significant value has been created in Ghana for SVL, right? So if you move away from the actual P&L, what we have seen is that we were able to roll out our proprietary software within 3 months. So we got the license April 27th. We were operational July 26th. We actually made it with 1 day to spare, even though the official launch was August 1, Independence, right? We actually started selling tickets July 26th. So that was huge, because what that showed is that with our we not only have the proprietary software, we actually have the in-house skill set to roll out this proprietary software in a different market. So we started with Pick 4. By September, we rolled out Pick 1 as well. So those are major steps. The second thing, how we distribute our games in Ghana is setting the stage potentially for how we can improve our distribution here in Jamaica. So we have a totally online system where people put in a short code, they bet, and when they win, we credit their account when they want to put money on. So it's very cool, for want of a better word. I think when Jamaica gets to that point, we literally will just plug and play, because we're doing it in Ghana. There are certain practices in how you manage the lottery in Ghana that we have combined what happens here in Jamaica with what happens there, and we're learning from that, and we're making certain efficiency changes there. So, those are some of the positives. It paid off when we got the 10-year license, and I say we, the partnership that we have, because now that you have the license, you can materially increase the investment, which will drive us faster to making a profit. And so when I say making a profit, it may be for that period of time. And as you start to make profit, it becomes a positive increase in numbers and cash flow as we go along. Because ultimately, what you're seeing, even though we find different ways to increase revenues in Jamaica double digit, there's a finite amount of revenues that you can find, right? And so, we've always fought with, do we just stay with our lottery and just mine it and it's just collect your dividends and good? Or do you actually spend some of that money to try and find another market and grow it? And as I said before, Ghana has 34 million people. If you can get 50% of the conversion that we have here in Jamaica, you're making 20 million in 3 million population. So anecdotally, it's 234 million. But if you get half of that, that's 100 million US. That's 5 times what we have here. If you get another 100 million population, you start moving in that direction, right? And that's just a lottery. When you have these other value addeds that we've spoken about, which is huge for those economies, those numbers start to get ridiculous. I try not to speak about it too much because, I said it to a member of the management team last week, and he's like, Mr. Peart, you realize that you're suggesting that we could make $1 billion US? I'm like, no, I'm suggesting that we can make more than $1 billion US in a year, right? And the guy went speechless. But when you stop and think about it, right, I'm not saying we're making $1 billion next year, but if you are just focused on doing as well as you can with your rollout, and as you roll out, you're getting these gains, the same way you move from Jamaica to Ghana, you can move from Ghana to another country, and it just keeps going, and you're going to wake up one day and, hey, $1 billion. So the question is, if that happens, do you want to be the person that don't own no shares or only own X amount of shares?
My errand saying Ghana is the first. So can you give us an update on Guyana? Ghana seems very exciting, but what's happening with Guyana? So
the main issue with Guyana, whilst Guyana has about 10 times the land space of Jamaica, they have about, 400,000 people? 900? They're about 900,000 people, of which about 400,000 is in Georgetown, and the rest are scattered over a lot of different places. So, we've been there. The benefit of Guyana for us is that it was the first place we rolled out our own proprietary software. But it's a tough market, because you're going through transition. So they've gotten the oil money, but you have to make those investments to increase the infrastructure, So, you need generators because the power can be unstable. I mean, in 5 years' time, they're going to upgrade the facility and you'll have uninterrupted power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have some of those things that you work with. But the final point is, even if you overcome all of that, it's back to my back to my key point I made before, it's a population of 900,000 people, right? And based on the metric, around 10% gain. So that's 90,000, right? So, if you execute 100% there, it's a 90,000 customer base. If you execute 10% in Ghana, it's 300,000 people.
I'm not talking about South Africa either.
Well, I'm not talking about, so you're correct. You know, so that's one of the things, you know, as I was explaining to a friend of mine, you know, when you go to these countries, so in the first instance, what has been told to us here in the Western Hemisphere is nothing like what Africa is, right? You know, I've sent back pictures and people think I'm in Manhattan. I'm like, no, this is different places, etc. White sand beaches, the whole 9 yards. I think you're in Jamaica. And from a digital perspective, they're leagues ahead of us. If you name the African country, in terms of digital, they're way ahead of us. So there are huge opportunities for a company like ours because we have that digital software. And, you know, if over the next 5 years, if we can execute, we'll be in a very good place. And I think owning shares in SVL, you know, it's going to be a good thing.
You repeat yourself time and time again on that score.
Well, the only reason I do it, Nicola, is that when it happens and somebody come ball, what am I going to tell them, ladies and gentlemen? I told you so, right? So people think we're crazy, but we're not. We are dreamers, but we believe it can be done. And the fact that we have gone to Guyana, we're now in Ghana, you never know, you might hear of other countries, you know, in time to come, right? And, you know, the team is here. They're motivated, they're compensated, and they themselves have ambition. So we get it done.
Okay, I am Carl Leslie.
Hi, Carl.
And I'm just thinking, you know, with this question will be really relevant to the company, but are you thinking of interjecting the use of AI anytime into our company?
So the answer to that question is, I'm not only thinking about it, the process has started. And so one of, in my opinion, the greatest unlocked value in SVL is data. We have volumes of data in SVL. So if you stop and think about it, we have over 2,000 points of sale between the lottery distribution, the horse racing distribution, and all our distributions, I mean, the sports betting combined, right? Digital is seen as one, but again, digital is everywhere. And we generate a ridiculous amount of information daily. So we actually get a report. I have a report thanks to my partners at IGT, Debbie and our team, right? We use their software here. And we can track every single ticket that has been purchased, right? We can tell you which cashier has bought it, what time they bought it, which machine they bought it on, etc., right? And so, in my opinion, one of the things we are working on is, you know, how can you use this data to predict customer behavior? And so my marketing team, when I say mine, SVL, and also IGT, they use a lot of this data, and I think it's one of the reasons SVL is so innovative. I know my detractors will say that we're a monopoly, but monopoly usually finds a product and stick with that product. SVL has 11 lottery products. We have 2 sports betting brands. We have a horse racing track. And every year, Aswanda, Chris, and Solomon come up with new ideas. And what drives these ideas is the feedback that we get from this data mining. So with AI, we have different people that we're speaking to. AI will allow us to get to the information faster and will allow us to make significantly better decisions and innovations going forward. So I alluded to the fact that our microfinance business Evolve, we actually have AI-type interaction that determines the credit. In other words, how much you should lend person A versus person B based on this information. So we have that running, but there are certain other areas in the company that we're looking to expand it significantly faster. And AI is the way of the world. And if you stop and think about it and dream with us at SVL, if you end up, say 5 years, you're in 10, 15 countries, right? The only way you can process all that information across borders, etc., is with a computer-generated AI program. So we want to be cutting edge. So I thank you for that question. It's a very, very good question. Rosie, I think it's your time. So you can close the proceedings. I don't think anybody else other than David may have a question.
Wait. So this is a question that has been asked on YouTube, so it's not like it's for me alone. You know, Philip Burgess asked it, and I'll add my own spin to it at the end. So, you know, Philip Burgess asked, does the case being brought by the Fair Trading Commission present a material threat to the business? And my follow-up query is, you know, has SPL filed a defense to that claim?
I didn't get the second part of the question.
Has SPL filed a defense to the claim by the FTC?
Okay, so as you can imagine, because the case is current, I am very limited in what I can say. But I can definitively state the answer to the first question. The answer is no. And the answer to the second question is yes, there will be a defense filed. But one of the concerns, and Krista, you can guide me here and where I must stop. But one of the concerns is that we actually were awaiting a decision from the appeal courts, and we are pretty surprised that the Fair Trading went ahead of what we would refer to as due process to file that. I don't know if I've gone too far, but whatever it is, the truth will get out. That's it. Thank you. One last question. No, I can't hear you.
Sir, thank you. I won.
No, what, sorry?
I won.
You won what?
On the scratch and win.
Hey, commission.
On the scratch and
That's good. Happy to have winners. So, thank you for the questions. I think we have exhausted them within the WhatsApp questions. All right, that's fine. Or I think we have touched on all of them. One of my ethos is at AGMs, I like to exhaust questions. I don't want any shareholder to feel that they weren't given the opportunity to ask a question. So WhatsApp, no WhatsApp questions. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'd like to invite Trisha Ann Smith De Silva, the representative from our audit firm, PwC, Chartered Accountants, to read the auditor's report on the accounts for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Trisha.
Good morning, Executive Chairman, Directors, Shareholders, and Executive Management. The Independent Auditor's Report. To the members of Supreme Ventures Limited, report on the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Our opinion. In our opinion, the consolidated financial statements and the standalone financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated financial position of Supreme Ventures Limited, the company, and its subsidiaries together, the group, and the standalone financial position of the company as at 31 December 2023, and of their consolidated and standalone financial performance and their consolidated and standalone cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with IFRS accounting standards and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act. What we have audited. The group's consolidated and standalone financial statements comprise the consolidated statement of financial position as at 31 December 2023, the consolidated statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the consolidated statement of cash flows for the year then ended, the company's statement of financial position as at 31 December 2023, the company's statement of comprehensive income for the year then ended, the company's statement of changes in equity for the year then ended, the company's statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes to the financial statements comprising material accounting policy information and other explanatory information. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audits in accordance with International Standards on Auditing, ISOs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements section of our report. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Independence. We are independent of the group in accordance with the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independent Standards issued by the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, IESBA Code. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code. Our audit approach. Audit scope. As part of designing our audit, we determined materiality and assessed the risk of material misstatement in the consolidated and standalone financial statements. In particular, we considered where management made subjective judgments, for example, in respect of significant accounting estimates that involved making assumptions and considering future events that are inherently uncertain. As in all of our audits, we also address the risk of management override of internal controls, including, among other matters, consideration of whether there was evidence of bias that represented a risk of material misstatement due to fraud. How we tailored our group audit scope? We tailored the scope of our audit in order to perform sufficient work to enable us to provide an opinion on the consolidated financial statements as a whole, taking into account the structure of the group, the accounting processes and controls, and the industry in which the group operates. The group comprises the company and 18 other components, 4 components representing inactive entities, of which we selected 9 components for testing. Full scope audits were performed for Supreme Ventures Limited, Supreme Ventures Gaming Limited, formerly Prime Sports Jamaica Limited, Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, and Supreme Ventures Services Limited, as they were determined to be individually financially significant and represent the principal business units within the group. All other entities individually represent less than 5% of the group's profit before taxation. Additionally, based on our professional judgment, Supreme Route Limited, formerly Bingo Investments Limited, Supreme Ventures FinTech Limited, formerly Supreme Ventures Financial Services Limited, Michaela Financial Services Limited, Post-to-Post Betting Limited, and iBet Ghana Limited were selected, and audit procedures were performed on specific account transactions and balances due to the significance or risk to the consolidated financial statements associated with certain individual amounts. All the in-scope components were audited by PwC Jamaica. In establishing the overall group audit strategy and plan, we determined the type of work required to be performed at the component level by the group engagement team and by the component auditors. The team members on the component audit teams performing the full scope audits were also the same as those on the group engagement team. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that in our professional judgment were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements as a whole and in forming our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Key audit matter: impairment assessment of goodwill, group and company. Refer to notes 2H, 42 and 19 to the consolidated and standalone financial statements for disclosures of related accounting policies, judgments, estimates, and balances. Goodwill accounts for 2.1 billion or 9.84% of total assets for the group and 190 million or 1.54% of total assets for the company as at 31 December 2023. Management performs an annual impairment analysis over the goodwill balance. The recoverable amounts of cash-generating units have been determined based on value-in-use calculations. We focus on this area as the assessment of the carrying value of goodwill involves significant judgment and estimation and is sensitive to changes in key assumptions. The key assumptions were assessed by management as being pre-tax discount rate, terminal value growth rate, and EBITDA growth rate in a terminal year. How our audit addressed the key audit matter? Our approach to addressing the matter with the assistance of our valuation expert involved the following procedures amongst others. Obtained management's discounted cash flow model, including qualitative and quantitative analysis, and obtained an understanding of the process used by management to determine value in use of each cash-generating unit. Agreed the 31 December 2023 base year financial information to current year results and compared the previous forecast to actual results to assess the performance of the business and the accuracy of management's forecasting. Tested management's key assumptions as follows. Pre-tax discount rate. Evaluated the reasonableness of management's determined rate by developing an independent expectation of the rate. Terminal value growth rate. Evaluated management's terminal value, whereby we developed a range of parameters using available market inputs and historical information, and performed sensitivity analysis using these parameters to determine the reasonableness of management's assumption. EBITDA growth rate in a terminal year, compared the growth rates to historical EBITDA growth, and evaluated management's estimated future growth rates, which included an assessment of management's business plan. Further checked management's impairment testing model calculations for mathematical accuracy and considered the sensitivity of the calculation by varying the key assumptions and adjustments within management forecast. Based on the procedures performed, management's assumptions and judgments relating to the carrying value of goodwill, in our view, were not unreasonable. Valuation of investment properties group. Refer to notes 2G, 4I, and 18 to the consolidated and standalone financial statements for disclosures of related accounting policies, judgments, estimates, and balances. Investment properties represent $942 million, or 4.51% of total assets for the group as at 31 December 2023. The determination of the fair value of investment properties requires significant judgment and is inherently subjective due to, among other factors, the individual nature of each property, its location, and the expected future rental income for each property. This, combined with the fact that a small percentage difference in individual property valuation assumptions, when aggregated, could result in a material misstatement, is why we have focused on this area. Management, with the assistance of independent valuation experts, used different methods to value the group's two investment properties as follows. For one of the two properties, the market comparison approach was combined with a residual approach to determine the fair value. The market comparison approach relies on suitable and substantial sales evidence of comparable properties within the geographic location, adjusting for certain pertinent factors to form a basis for comparison. The residual approach is based on the residue or difference between the gross development value of the highest and best use development of the site, less its gross development. For the other property, the investment approach was used. The investment approach capitalizes the net income from the investment over its projected useful life and takes into consideration a number of factors which require estimation and judgment. The key factors include an estimation of rental income, determination of a capitalization rate, and discount rates. Our approach to addressing the matter with the assistance of our valuation expert involved the following procedures amongst others. Evaluated the competence and objectivity of management's expert. This included confirming they are properly qualified and not affiliated to the group, obtain an understanding of the valuation method used by management, along with significant developments within the industry. This included evaluating the appropriateness of the valuation methodology used and its suitability for determining market value in accordance with the financial reporting framework, evaluating management's assumptions for the market comparison approach by performing comparisons to properties within similar geographical locations, assessed the appropriateness of the inputs used in the residual approach in determining the gross development value and the gross development costs, focusing on the capital value per square foot and basic building costs. This involved evaluating the inputs against suitable market information, agreed the inputs used in investment approach to relevant market information for the key factors being the estimation of rental income, the capitalization factor, and the discount rates. Based on the procedures performed, management's assumptions and judgments relating to the valuation of investment properties, in our view, were not unreasonable. Other information. Management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statements and our auditor's report thereon, which is expected to be made available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statements does not cover the other information, and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or our knowledge obtained in the audit, or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we conclude that there is a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of the consolidated and standalone financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS accounting standards and with the requirements of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated and standalone financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and standalone financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the group and company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters related to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting, unless management either intends to liquidate the group or the company, or to cease operations, or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the group and company's financial reporting process. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and standalone financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that include our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISOs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and standalone financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISOs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform or the procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and company's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cause significant doubt on the group or company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated and standalone financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether the consolidated and standalone financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial statement, financial information of the entities or business activities within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit, and we remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with relevant ethical requirements regarding independence, and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence, and where applicable, actions taken to eliminate threats or safeguards applied. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determined those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the consolidated and standalone financial statements of the current period, and are therefore the key audit matters. We describe these matters in our auditor's report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter, or when, in extremely rare circumstances, we determine that a matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefits of such communication. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. As required by the Jamaican Companies Act, we have obtained all information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept so far as appears from our examination of those records, and accompanying consolidated and standalone financial statements are in agreement therewith and give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Trisha Ann Smith da Silva, signed PricewaterhouseCoopers, Chartered Accountants, Kingston, Jamaica, dated 28 March 2024.
I forget Trisha a bigger clap than that. I don't know why the Audit Association don't lobby that this thing can be done shorter. Excuse me? And? I see. So in many other jurisdictions, it's much shorter. But in the meantime, Trisha, there is some water, copious amount available. I mean, you did a great job. Directors' report and audited accounts for the year ended 31st December 2023 have been circulated. They have been in your hands for the customary period, and I ask that the meeting take them as read. Shareholders, we now move to the business of the meeting. I will now ask the secretary to read the first resolution.
Resolution 1, that the audited group accounts for the year ended December 31, 2023, and the reports of the directors and auditors circulated with the notice convening the meeting be and are hereby adopted.
Will not a false start. Will a shareholder move this motion? Please state your name for the record. Mark what? Mark Anthony Barton. Will a shareholder second this motion? David Rose. I now put the motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. I'll now ask the secretary to read the second resolution.
Resolution 2, that the interim dividends of 23.94 cents per stock unit paid on August 15, 2023, 26.45 cents per stock unit paid on October 2, 2023, 9.36 cents per stock unit paid on December 6, 2023, and 10.88 cents per stock unit paid on May 8, 2024, be and are hereby ratified and declared as final on the recommendation of the directors, and that no further dividend be paid in respect of the year under review.
Will a shareholder move this motion? Wesley Thomas. Will a shareholder second this motion? David Bayer knows. I now put the motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. In accordance with Article 103 of the company's Articles of Incorporation, Mr. Leighton McKnight and Dr. the Honorable Usain Bolt, having been appointed as directors since the last annual general meeting, shall retire and be eligible, offer themselves for re-election. The Secretary will now read Resolutions 3A and 3B.
Resolution 3A, that Mr. Leighton McKnight, retiring pursuant to Article 103 of the company's Articles of Incorporation, be and is hereby elected.
Will a shareholder move this motion? The pretty Roxanne Smichael. Will a shareholder second this motion? Mark Barton. Give up park a little bit, David. I now put a motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. Congratulations, Mr. McKnight and Mr. Bolt.
Resolution 3B, that Dr. the Honorable Usain Bolt, retiring pursuant to Article 103 of the company's Articles of Incorporation, be and is hereby elected.
Will a shareholder move this motion? David Rose. Will a shareholder second this motion? Wesley, no, hold on, we have a new hand. Errol Whitaker. I now put the motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. Congratulations, Dr. Bolt. In accordance with Articles 105 and 106 of the company's Articles of Incorporation, the directors retiring from office by rotations are Messrs. Damian Chinyu, Duncan Stewart, and Gary Peart, and being eligible offer themselves for re-election. The Secretary will now read resolutions 3C, 3D, and 3E.
Resolution 3C, that Mr. Damian Chinyu, retiring pursuant to Articles 105 and 106 of the Articles of Incorporation, be and is hereby re-elected.
Will a shareholder move this motion? 1 second, a new lady. Marcel Gordon?
Nichols.
Marcel Nichols. Will a shareholder second this motion? David Rose. I now put a motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried.
Resolution 3D, that Mr. Duncan Stewart, retiring pursuant to Articles 105 and 106 of the Articles of Incorporation, be and is hereby re-elected.
The shareholder move this motion. This young lady. Roxanne Smichael. Will a shareholder second the motion? All right, so we're now in a tie now. Mark Barton. Both Mark and David has no equal amount of motions. I now put the motion before the meeting, signifying the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. At this point, I will step from the podium and I invite the chairman of the audit committee, Mr. Leighton Matt Knight, to chair the proceedings. Mr. Matt Knight.
Good morning. Secretary, may I read the next resolution?
Resolution 3E, that Mr. Gary Peart, retiring pursuant to Articles 105 and 106 of the Articles of Incorporation, be and is hereby re-elected.
Shareholders, you have heard the motion duly moved and seconded. Roxanne Smichael, seconded by?
Mark Barrett.
Motion has been duly moved and seconded. Those in favor, aye. Any against? Any abstentions? The ayes unanimously have it. You may take back your rightful position, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for keeping me on board. I now ask the Secretary to read resolutions 4A and 4B.
Resolution 4A, that the directors be and are hereby empowered to fix the remuneration of the executive director.
Will a shareholder move this motion? I was wondering what happened to you, Lancel Bloomfield. Will a shareholder second this motion? That young lady in pink. Sorry? Daphne Drisdale. I now put a motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried.
Resolution 4B, that the amount shown in the audited accounts of the company for the year ended December 31, 2023, as remuneration of the directors for their services be and is hereby approved.
The shareholder move this motion. Nicola Borrow. The shareholder second the motion. And for the tiebreaker, David Rose. I now put the motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor? Those against? Any abstentions? I declare the motion carried. The Secretary will now read the resolution 5.
Resolution 5, that PricewaterhouseCoopers, having signified their willingness to serve, be and are hereby appointed as auditors of the company until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors.
Will a shareholder move this motion? Young gentleman in white behind David. Martin Fennell. Will a shareholder second the motion? Patricia Ramicki. I now put a motion before the meeting. Please signify in the usual way by raising hands. Those in favor, those against, I declare the motion carried. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our AGM. We thank you for joining us and we look forward to your continued support. Members of the media, you may now join us for a chat with the C-suite. For our other shareholders and guests, please, I thank you all for being here. And I ask that you mingle with each other, but most importantly, mingle with our team at the back so you can get to know more about the products and services that we offer at SVL. And finally, continue to enjoy the Supreme experience. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.